The message notification sound made my heart skip, but it was the photo attachment that stopped my breath entirely. There on my screen was a bank transfer confirmation with my name as the sender, transferring the entire $800,000 of my education fund. The recipient's name burned into my vision: Layla Morrison Luxury Homes. A home design brochure sat beside it, with my brother Ethan's signature scrawled across the bottom, and my sister-in-law Victoria's manicured hand visible in the corner of the frame. "Thought you should see what your college fund is building us," read the text from Victoria. "Not like you were ever going back to finish med school anyway. Time for real adults to use that money properly." My fingernails dug half-moons into my palms as I stood frozen in my kitchen, the morning sunlight suddenly feeling cold against my skin. The fund my grandparents had established before their deaths, my pathway to finishing medical school, supposedly gone with a few signatures and mouse clicks. "My name is Rachel. I'm 32 and a forensic accountant. This is the story of how I turned someone's arrogance into their own undoing." The buzzing of my phone jolted me from my shock. Victoria calling, no doubt, to hear my distress firsthand. "Did you get my message?" Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness when I answered. "I thought you'd want to see the beautiful property your fund is helping us acquire. 5 bedrooms, wine cellar, infinity pool. Much better use than paying for more classes, don't you think?" I carefully controlled my breathing before responding. "That's quite a purchase. When's the closing date?" Victoria's disappointed pause was audible. She'd clearly expected tears or rage. "Friday. The down payment's already processed from your account. Ethan had the access codes from when your grandparents first set it up." "I see," I said, keeping my voice deliberately neutral while opening my laptop. "Well, enjoy the house." "That's it? Enjoy the house?" Victoria's frustration broke through her composure. "God, you're boring. I thought you'd at least put up a fight." I ended the call without responding and pulled up my email. There it was, confirmation from my attorney, Renee, sent at 5:47 this morning. The attempted transfer from Victoria had been automatically rejected. The funds had been moved to a new secure account 2 weeks ago, precisely when Victoria had started asking suspiciously detailed questions about my dormant education fund at family dinners. My grandmother had taught me well. "Trust your instincts about people, but verify your accounts," she'd said repeatedly during the years I'd worked at her forensic accounting firm. When she passed away, she left me not just the education fund, but the knowledge to protect it. I dialed Renee's number, my hand steady despite the anger still burning beneath my measured exterior. "Morning, Rachel. I see you got the notification," Renee said, her voice professional and calm. "Everything has been documented. Timestamps, IP addresses, the attempted withdrawal, even the forged authorization with your brother's signature." The signature was forged? The confirmation sent a cold wave through me. I had suspected Victoria's manipulation, but not outright forgery. Unmistakably. The pressure patterns are inconsistent with your brother's other legal signatures. Do you want to proceed with pressing charges immediately? I thought about Ethan, my protective older brother who'd stood between me and our parents' explosive arguments throughout childhood. The same brother who'd fallen for Victoria's practiced charm after just 3 weeks of dating, rushing into marriage despite my carefully worded concerns. "Not yet," I replied, walking to my home office and unlocking the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. "Let's wait for them to discover the transfer failed. I want to see Victoria's next move." Inside the drawer was a thick folder labeled Grandma's Protocols. I pulled out a letter written just weeks before she died 2 years ago. "My dearest Rachel," it read, "I'm leaving you this money because I believe in your dream. Medicine isn't just a career for you, it's your calling. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late or too hard, and most importantly, don't let anyone take this opportunity from you. You're smarter than they think. Remember what I taught you. Sometimes the best vantage point is the one they don't realize you have." I traced her signature, remembering how she'd taught me to analyze handwriting patterns when I was 12, the same knowledge that had helped me spot the inconsistencies in the documents Victoria had submitted to the bank. My phone vibrated with a text from Ethan. "Hey sis, Victoria's really excited about our new house. I know the money was for your school, but you've got a good job already. Family helps family, right? A familiar ache spread through my chest. Ethan had always been financially impulsive, jumping from one scheme to another. Victoria had clearly identified his vulnerability within days of meeting him. Another text arrived. The realtor needs the money by Friday. You're not mad, are you? I started typing a response, then deleted it. Sometimes silence was the most effective strategy. Let them discover their plan had failed without warning. My computer pinged with an email notification, the medical school admissions office confirming my interview for next week. I'd been quietly completing prerequisites at night while working full-time for the past 2 years. The money from my grandparents wasn't just sitting in an account. It was the final piece of a plan I'd been methodically building. I opened my blinds, watching the city skyline as the afternoon sun painted the buildings gold. Victoria thought she had won, that she'd crushed my dreams with a few forged signatures and a smug text message. She had no idea she'd just triggered a trap of her own making. My grandmother's words echoed in my mind. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they've beaten you, right up until the moment they realize they've beaten themselves. Friday was only 3 days away. I wondered what excuse Victoria would give the realtor when the money didn't appear. More importantly, I wondered how she would explain to Ethan why she had forged his signature to steal from his sister. I sent a text to Renee. Send me everything you've documented. I want to be ready when this falls apart. Then I returned to my medical school application, a small smile playing at my lips. Victoria thought she was destroying my dream. Instead, she was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating the quiet ones in the family. Friday morning arrived with a storm of text messages from Victoria. The bank says the transfer failed. What did you do? You think you're so clever, don't you? Ethan is devastated. How could you do this to your own brother? I sipped my coffee while reviewing the evidence Renee had sent over. Everything was meticulously documented. Victoria's multiple attempts to access the account, the forged signatures, recordings of her calls to the bank where she had tried to impersonate me, and, most damning of all, bank statements revealing systematic withdrawals to offshore accounts and online gambling sites. My phone rang. Ethan. Rachel, we need to talk. His voice was tight with anxiety. Victoria says there's some kind of problem with the transfer. There is, I replied calmly. Would you like to know what really happened? Or do you want to keep pretending your wife didn't just try to steal my education fund? Silence hung between us then. It wasn't stealing. I signed the papers. We're family. Did you actually sign them, Ethan? Or did Victoria forge your signature after showing you different documents? More silence. I could almost hear the pieces clicking into place in his mind. Come over, he said finally. Please. I need to understand what's going on. An hour later, I sat in their living room, my laptop open to display the evidence. Victoria paced behind the couch, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors she'd insisted they install last month. As you can see, I explained, pulling up the forged documents, these signatures don't match your usual handwriting, Ethan. The bank's fraud department spotted it immediately. You had no right to move that money, Victoria burst out. It was just sitting there while you play pretend about medical school. We needed it. Needed it? I raised an eyebrow. For what? A 5-bedroom house you can't afford? More designer clothes? Or was it to cover the gambling debts you've been hiding from Ethan? Her face went pale. Ethan turned to stare at her. What gambling debts? I pulled up another document, a credit report Renee had obtained during our investigation. Your wife has been busy, Ethan. 3 maxed-out credit cards, 2 personal loans, and regular withdrawals at Golden Palace Casino. I scrolled through the transactions. Did you wonder why she was so interested in accessing my college fund? Victoria's composure cracked. You had no right to look into my finances. Actually, I had every right. You tried to steal my money. Did you really think I wouldn't protect myself? That I wouldn't notice when you started asking questions about my account details? Ethan sat heavily on the couch, his face ashen. Victoria, is this true? The gambling? It's not what you think, she stammered. I had a system. I was going to win it all back. The house was going to fix everything. We could have remortgaged it when we needed to. I watched my brother's world crumble around him. Part of me wanted to comfort him, but he needed to see the truth for himself. "How much?" he asked quietly. Victoria's silence filled the room like smoke. "Over $200,000, I answered for her. At least that's what we've been able to trace. Ethan put his head in his hands. I could see his shoulders shaking. "Get out," he whispered. "Baby, please," Victoria started. "Get out," Ethan roared, standing up. "You tried to steal from my sister. You forged my signature. You've been gambling away our savings. Get out." Victoria grabbed her purse, mascara running down her face. "Fine, but don't think this is over. I'll find a way to fix this." The door slammed behind her, and Ethan collapsed back onto the couch. "I'm so sorry, Rachel," he whispered. "I should have listened when you said something felt off about her. I wanted to believe someone could love me that much, that quickly." I moved to sit beside him, pulling an envelope from my bag. "Here," I said softly. "You'll need this." "What is it?" "Contact information for a good divorce lawyer Renee recommended, and proof that Victoria has been planning this from the beginning." Ethan looked through the papers, his face growing harder with each page. Text messages showing Victoria bragging to friends about marrying into a family with money. Bank statements showing transfers to offshore accounts. Casino receipts dating back to before their wedding. "She never loved me, did she?" he asked, his voice small. "No," I replied gently. "But that's not a reflection on you. She's a con artist, Ethan. She's done this before." His head snapped up. "What?" I pulled out the final document, a police report from 3 years ago. Another marriage, another theft, another devastated family. "She disappeared before they could press charges," I explained. "Changed her name and moved here. Started fresh with a new target." Ethan was quiet for a long time, processing everything. Finally, he looked at me. "The college fund? It's safe?" I nodded. "Grandma taught me well. The money was moved to a secure account weeks ago. Victoria's transfer attempts were blocked and documented. We have everything we need to press charges." "Do it," he said firmly. "Press charges. All of it. I'll testify. Provide whatever you need. She needs to be stopped." I hugged my brother, feeling him shake with suppressed sobs. "I'm sorry," he whispered again. "I'm supposed to protect you, not put you in danger." "Hey," I pulled back to look at him. "You protected me plenty when we were kids. Let me protect you this time." My phone buzzed with a text from Renee. The police were ready to move on our evidence. Victoria's previous victims had been contacted and were willing to testify. "What happens now?" Ethan asked. "Now," I replied, "we make sure Victoria can't do this to anyone else." I squeezed his hand. "And then I have a medical school interview to prepare for." For the first time that day, Ethan smiled. "You're really going to do it? Become a doctor? That's what the money was for, what Grandma wanted?" I nodded. "She'd be proud of you, you know, not just for catching Victoria, but for never giving up on your dream." I squeezed his hand. "She'd be proud of you, too, for being brave enough to face the truth." Outside, thunder rumbled as the sky darkened. Somewhere in the city, Victoria was probably trying to figure out her next move, unaware that her game was finally over. But here, in this moment, something broken was beginning to heal. 2 months later, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, adjusting my white coat. My medical school interview had gone perfectly, just as my preparation with the secured funds had allowed. But today wasn't about my future as a doctor. Today was about justice. "Ready?" Ethan asked from the doorway. He looked better now, the shadows under his eyes finally fading. The divorce papers had been filed the day after Victoria's schemes came to light. "Ready," I confirmed, grabbing my bag. The courthouse was packed, but not just with us. 3 other families were there, Victoria's previous victims. She'd used different names each time. Victoria Nichols, Valerie Nelson, Vanessa Newman. But her strategy had always been the same. Marry quickly, locate assets, forge documents, drain accounts. "You don't have to do this," I told Ethan as we took our seats. "Renee can present the evidence without your testimony." He shook his head. "Number, I need to face her." We all do. Victoria was led in by officers, her designer clothes replaced by generic court attire. She'd been arrested at the airport 3 weeks ago, attempting to flee with a fake passport. The smug smile I remembered from her text message was gone, replaced by a look of desperate calculation. Her eyes widened when she saw the other families. This wasn't part of her plan. The proceedings moved quickly. Renee presented our evidence methodically. The forged signatures, the gambling debts, the pattern of fraud across multiple states. Each family stood to testify, sharing nearly identical stories of trust betrayed and lives nearly ruined. When it was Ethan's turn, his voice was steady. "She made me believe I'd found true love," he said. "Instead, I nearly helped her steal my sister's future. The money she tried to take wasn't just cash in an account. It was a grandmother's legacy, a dream of becoming a doctor, a future of helping others. Victoria doesn't just steal money, she steals hope." I squeezed his hand as he returned to his seat. Finally, it was my turn. "Unlike Victoria's other victims, I was fortunate," I began. "My grandmother taught me to protect myself, to trust my instincts, to document everything. The money she left me wasn't just for education. It was a lesson in standing up for what's right. Today isn't about revenge. It's about making sure Victoria can't destroy any more families." The judge's verdict was decisive. Guilty on all counts. 5 years in prison, restitution to all victims, no possibility of early release. "You think this changes anything?" Victoria spat as they led her away. "You're still just playing at being a doctor. You'll fail, and I'll be out before you finish your first year." I smiled, thinking of my grandmother's words about letting people think they've won. "Actually," I replied calmly, "I start medical school next month. Your attempt to steal my dream just motivated me to work harder. So thank you, Victoria. You taught me that sometimes the best revenge is succeeding, despite those who tried to stop you." Outside the courthouse, Ethan turned to me. "I found her ring," he said. "The engagement ring I spent 3 months' salary on. It's fake, just like everything else about her." "Sell it," I suggested. "Use the money to start fresh." He shook his head, pulling out the ring. "Number, I want you to have it. Sell it and add it to your school fund. Turn one more piece of her lies into something good." That evening, I sat in my office looking at my grandmother's photo. The acceptance letter from medical school lay on my desk, along with the latest statement from my secured education fund. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I couldn't see the truth." I smiled, thinking about how different things could have been if I hadn't listened to my grandmother's lessons about protecting myself. Victoria had thought she was taking advantage of a naive dreamer, too busy studying to notice her schemes. Instead, she'd encountered someone prepared, protected, and unwilling to let anyone steal her future. I picked up my white coat, running my fingers over the embroidered name, Rachel Mitchell, medical student. Sometimes the best victories aren't just about keeping what's yours. They're about showing others that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to pursue your dreams, to trust your instincts. And as for Victoria, she had 5 years to think about the fact that the quiet one she'd underestimated was now on her way to becoming Dr. Mitchell, while she sat in a cell, her own dreams of easy money, finally, permanently out of reach. 4 months after the trial, I received the final notification from Ethan's lawyer. "The divorce is officially finalized," he texted me alongside a photo of the court-approved documents. "Completely free of her now. The judge even granted a full annulment given the evidence of her fraudulent intent from the beginning." Despite everything Victoria had put him through, I could sense the relief in his message. Closure at last after what had been the most turbulent year of our lives.